All right, guys. So today we are basically tipping off the video series of contest prep like I do every year. This prep is for Masters Nationals. Last year I placed fourth. So obviously the goal this year is to get that top spot and get the pro card. So everything, obviously, since I stepped off stage last year, I have literally everything's been planned out in detail to get me ready for prep this year. So I'm 4 weeks into prep right now. It's gone great. I usually have a little different approach in the first part of prep. It's almost every year. As soon as I start prep, I will shift and gain weight, just because I'm always set up to do that. So this year we really set it up to push hard the first 4 weeks. I was in Australia for a couple of weeks, kind of some downtime, let my body rest, relax. And then we hit the gas full throttle for these first 4 weeks. So my training split's been around a 9-day split. I'm hitting everything 4 times in that nine-day period. I have 3 2-a-day sessions in that 9-day period. So obviously lots of volume, lots of frequency. And obviously the nutrition is geared around all that as well. Now as far as nutrition, off days has been the same as they've been all off season. So pretty much no fat or no carbs. It's just a fat-based day. I was at 200 grams of fats, 300 grams of protein, and then there's trace carbs from my veggies and nuts and stuff, which I don't really count. And then on, I think I ended off season, my carbs were around 450 to 500 on training days. So as soon as we started prep, that was completely shifted around besides the off days. So with the single session days, carbs were set roughly around 250 grams. And then my 2-a-day sessions, initially, we had at 1,000 grams of carbs for the first week. And then just with some feedback and how my body responded, by the third day of 1,000 grams of carbs, it was just almost too much food. By the third meal that day, and this is 8 meals a day, it was really hard to eat all that. So where we're at right now, we pulled back. So like today's the first of the 2-a-day sessions. So today I'll hit 850 grams of carbs. Tomorrow we'll back it down even more to around 600, and then jump it right back up to 850 for the last 2-a-day session. All right, so basically with this, we're obviously loading in lots and lots of glycogen, and then going into the single session days, and then the high fat, no carb days, glycogen's depleting out, and you're basically working more of glycogen reserves towards the end of the week, because it's about a 6-day stint to where carbs drop back down to 250 and then 0 on off days, and then I hit those 2-a-day sessions to where everything's jacked up, 850 grams of carbs. So body's responding really well. I started prep at around 203, 204. I've topped out 215, 216. So, put on a good 12 pounds or so during the first 4 weeks. And now at this point, after this 2-a-day session, this first training phase, we're pulling things back, pulling frequency back, the volume, intensity still being obviously cranked up high. We're just pulling back on those things. We're adjusting nutritional intake, and then start pulling weight off at this point, because I got to make the 192 pound cutoff. So obviously, like this morning, I weighed in at 210. So I'm roughly 16, 18 pounds, give or take, above the cutoff. So at 13 weeks out now, got to start obviously pulling back now to get down to the weight and really start peeling these layers of fat off, which I obviously don't have a lot. I've actually leaned out. Even though I've gained scale weight, I've leaned out some substantially and actually put on some muscle with the push that we did. And especially now, I'm in more of a super compensated state. Once we pull back on nutrition, weight should start falling off really quickly. And start adding in some more metabolic work. And as far as cardio, conditioning, whatever you want to call it, it's been 4 days a week, or I should say 4 days in that 9-day split. Just obviously aerobic based, doing like interval based stuff, so like 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off type stuff, and I'll vary it between using a prowler, pulling a sled, Versa climber, whatever piece of equipment I want to use. It doesn't really matter. Just doing those high end for 60 seconds and then pulling back and resting. And I think a lot of people misunderstand energy systems and how they work, with your aerobic and anaerobic systems and capacity. Everybody, doing HIIT training or, intervals or whatever, they always think in the realm of HIIT being more purely anaerobic. And that obviously that really isn't true, unless you're doing something like a actually true wind gate, okay? And that's a whole nother level, which 99% of people aren't doing that anyways. So, actual high intensity intervals initially, so say you're doing 20, 30 seconds, all out, high intensity, crank things up for your first sprint, say on a bike. You're going to use a greater percentage of, your anaerobic system, all right? But the more bouts that you do, say you're getting into round 5, round 6, round 7, those are shifting. You're going to hit more of your aerobic energy system and not your anaerobic. They're going to shift just because aerobic capacity is the length of time that you can do something. More anaerobics, more power, short bursts, and then you're done. Obviously, weight training or 100-meter sprint or whatever, and then you're done. But because you're doing that power output, you rest or pull back, do it again, rest, do it again, do it again. You're shifting those energy systems. You're going from anaerobic, shifting aerobic, and then by the end, say you've done 12, 13 rounds of it, you're absolutely more aerobic based at that point. All right, I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because people are kind of misrepresenting and more what HIIT is. And I don't even like saying HIIT. You either do an interval or different aerobic capacity type stuff. Most people, it's almost always aerobic capacity type stuff when they're through with it. Initially, it may start out as anaerobic base, but it shifts into more aerobic capacity. And you'll see kind of like if you have really good aerobic capacity, you'll be able to keep those higher outputs a lot longer at a higher level than if somebody's just anaerobically conditioned. So you need the best of both worlds, okay? You can't just do one or the other because one will help with the other. So in the sense of cardio, don't be closed-minded. Don't think in a box of steady state, get on a treadmill for 45 minutes and your heart rate stays in this zone for whatever amount of time. I mean, that has application for sure, but there's multiple ways that you can actually do that kind of stuff. Multiple intervals or whatever it may be to, say, hit a heart rate zone, stay there, rest, hit it again, rest, hit it again for 30 minutes. Just a bunch of different applications that people just don't look to, and they always it's either steady state or just a typical interval. Just got to think outside the box when it comes to cardio and conditioning. All right, so that's kind of where I'm at with my training phase. It will be over with this Monday with the last 2-a-day, and then we're going to shift like I talked about and pull things back and really start stripping this weight off. But I just got done doing my first session this morning, and then we'll actually film the second session, which will be shoulders, later on. So we're kind of going right now with my post-workout meal, and then we'll go into my second main post-workout meal, and then my next pre-workout meal will train, and then that'll be it for the video. So this morning I've already, I started around, typically 6:30 a.m. or roughly. I have meal 1, which is just my grass-fed beef and some guacamole, bunch of grilled sauteed veggies and ghee. I typically do zucchini, squash, mushrooms. So that's meal 1. Then by around 9 o'clock or so, I'll have my pre-workout meal, which consists of, my first one's usually quinoa, around 60 grams of carbs from quinoa, and then some egg whites with that. So pretty simple. And then I go into, obviously, my intra workout and stuff, which I'll talk about later when we get ready for the second training session. So I just got done. And typically on these days, because the carbs are 850 grams, I throw in a mixture of my nutrient-dense carbs, sweet potatoes, rice, quinoa. That's probably typically my main sources. And then I'll mix in rice cakes, honey. I got my cereals here, obviously, just because 850 grams of carbs is a lot. And to get that in, especially, multiple days in a row, it gets hard to get that nutrient-dense food. But it's not going to hurt with this, It's still decently quality food. So post-workout, my carbs at 150 grams. I will typically mix multiple cereals together just because I like variety and like the flavor. I stick with gluten-free stuff, just to gluten-free and no dairy, to keep inflammatory responses down. Obviously, just because I just got through causing stress and inflammation with my training. So the last thing I want to do is prolong that. So my mixture, I have gluten-free cereals, Jungle Munch, Choco Chimps, Koala Crisp, my favorite. I'll just throw all those in a big bowl and mix it up. I will get whey isolate from True Nutrition and mix in with that. Where's it at? My creatine. I use a Magna Power by Swanson. This is a creatine chelated with magnesium. And the reason I like that when it's bonded to magnesium is because you'll get a higher bioavailability. Because when you're taking in creatine, the acidic environment will kind of break it down. You won't get as much absorption. So the magnesium helps kind of protect that. So you get a lot more creatine absorption from it. It's really cheap. I mean, Albion's the manufacturer, so high quality. As you know, I'm all about quality. This stuff's only $20, and it lasts a while. So Swanson, creatine, Magna Power, I've talked about it before. So I put 5 grams of that with my whey, and then also 3 grams of taurine. And a lot of people like, oh, what are you putting taurine, post-workout? People, because it's known for relaxation effects, so to speak. And it does that, but, when you're kind of amped up to train for training, it doesn't have that same effect, and it's not high, I'm not using crazy high doses either. But taking it post-workout, it also helps with glucose uptake, which is a big point as why it's in my my post-workout shake. And then I'll take my supplements, which magnesium. This is just an Ubermag. This is just a chelated version. It has a glycinate, taurate in it from Poliquin. So I'm doing 500 milligrams of magnesium. And then Mariva, which is curcumin by Thorne. This, from my research and stuff that I've seen, this is a really, really high absorption rate, high bioavailability. And I typically do 2,000 milligrams, 2 grams a day of this. So my 2 a days, I just kind of split that up. So I'll do 500 first thing in the morning, 500 milligrams after the first workout, and then I'll do 1,000 milligrams after my second workout. Obviously, this is for, anti-inflammatory response. That's my typical post-workout supplements. And then also, Omnizon by Poliquin, it's just a digestive enzyme, or Biogest by Thorne, either or. I take those on these days pretty much with every single meal, just to help with the breakdown of my nutrients, just because I'm piling in so much. So I'm going to help my body to break those down and utilize them, absorb them, assimilate them. So I think when you're pushing food, especially, and just in general, to help your body with the breakdown of nutrients, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think you should rely on digestive enzymes all the time, but take them in situations as these. I don't think anything's wrong with it. I think it will help the situation for sure. So I actually mixed all these cereals together, made this bowl, obviously I've already eaten it. And then I actually added a tablespoon of organic honey as well. Just an easy way to add carbs without much volume. And then post-workout as well, as first thing in the morning stuff, you see my glucometer here. So I'm, keeping track of my blood glucose levels, fasted and post workout, and obviously after both workouts on 2-a-day sessions, just to kind of see how my body's, insulin sensitivity is, how fast it's dropping back down. Typically my fasted blood glucose is, in the 70s, mid 70s, lower 70s. After workouts, it's been averaging, mid 70s up to 80 or so. So just kind of monitoring that, which I've always done and I use with clients a lot. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the post-workout stuff. So another thing I wanted to touch on is, people have been, asking me about what's my exact training split, why am I gaining weight, blah, blah, blah. And what can they do to set themselves up to do the same thing? You have to realize that this whole off season has been geared towards, prep in a sense, or to get ready for the contest. So, the weeks, months, whatever, leading into prep, we were kind of prepping my body to prep, which a lot of people don't think of. A lot of people will just, be in off-season mode and then shift straight into prep without taking anything else into consideration. And, that's fine for some people. It's not that it's completely wrong to do that by any means. It's just not what I choose to do or do with my clients. I think you need to get your body into a great place to where you're getting, a lot of energy production. Your body set up to start, really utilizing fat stores. You have AMPK activation easily manipulated at that point. Your HSL, which is a fat oxidizing, enzyme. So taking all the little things into account, setting your body up to start prep, and it'll make a much easier shift and more efficient, to get to where you need to go. And obviously it's not going to make it easier in the sense of, obviously, once you get down to a certain body fat percentage, your energy levels are going to be low. You're going to feel like crap to an extent. That's just part of it. But it still makes it a much better process, a more efficient process. So you're not having to do crazy ass things like, 2 hours of cardio a day. So in my eyes, you need to kind of set your body up to prep. And it's all individual. Just because I did a certain thing to set my body up doesn't mean people can follow that exact same thing and be in the same place that I am, or get the exact same results that I'm getting. But you have to be consistent with everything. Off season, if you're trying to improve, you have to treat it like prep in a sense. I mean, I have a little more freedom, obviously, with food and going out to eat and, enjoying more time out with family and friends. But at the same time, you need to be diligent about, your nutrients, quality stuff, the amount that you're taking in, tracking that stuff, reading how your body's adapting, responding to situations, adjusting your training accordingly. If you're starting to have joint issues or stuff that's being caused by poor mechanics or muscular imbalances, you need to go through phases to where you're trying to fix those things, strengthening your connective tissue. So you need to take all these things into account, in my opinion. I just see better results that way. And then also, number one is optimizing your health, first and foremost, and then everything else will follow. If you optimize your internal systems, Krebs cycle, all the things that are going on for energy production, it's going to lead to a better situation, to do a contest prep or just a fat loss phase in general. So, get your body in the right place. A lot of people they don't think that way. They kind of put their head in the sand and just go about, let's pound our body into the ground with training, 7 days a week, or just keep pounding, tons and tons of calories when your body's not even, assimilating or absorbing them because you got an effed up gut. And your systematic inflammation is high. You're more sympathetic based instead of got that balance between your parasympathetic and your sympathetic system. Okay, so your autonomic nervous system really needs to be balanced. That's another thing people don't take into account, because if you're more sympathetic dominant, your body's going to kind of be basically turned on all the time. That's your fight or flight system. You're constantly always dumping cortisol and sugar into the bloodstream, free fatty acids, all this stuff. And then your stress levels are high. You're going to cause insulin resistance. I mean, there's just an array of issues that go on. Your sleep goes to crap. So you need to think health first, and then performance and all that stuff will come naturally after that. You will get better. You will get stronger. You will grow. You will lose fat. So people need to kind of broaden their perspective and how they're looking at things. And in my opinion, to optimize the body, how it is performing, how it's working, to get the most out of it. The more you do that and pay attention to those things, lifestyle factors, modification, it will help everything else. And the number one thing is stress. Everything literally goes back to stress. That pretty much screws up everything else in your system. So we fix that, everything else kind of follows along with it. So that's my rant on that. So we'll chill out for a little bit. The next meal is going to be my main post-workout meal, which I typically have about an hour after this meal. And that's when I'm going to throw in on more of my nutrient-dense type foods, you'll see. And then it'll be about 2.5 hours after that, I'll have my pre-workout meal. I'll talk about my intra-shake supplements and all that stuff. And then we'll hit a killer shoulder session, lots of density, lots of volume. So I'll talk to you guys in a sec. All right, guys, so we're at my second post-workout meal. This is the more nutrient-dense one I was talking about, with healthier options, as most people would see, as opposed to cereal. So this meal has 140 grams of carbs in it. So this bowl, this has shredded chicken, jasmine rice in it. And I also mix, because I like my condiments, a little bit of bruschetta, and then a little bit of Trader Joe's Parmesan Ranch, which only has 1 gram of fat per serving. So I don't even put a full serving on it, just a little bit for flavor. Then I have a bowl of berries here, some raspberries, some blueberries, sprouted grain English muffins with real jam, not that sugar-free crap. So actual real jam on here. And then a couple of rice cakes. And then I'll also put a little bit of, again, my organic honey on my rice cakes, just to finish out the total. Because also you can see this is a lot of food. So I get my 140 grams of carbs. And then also, before this meal, I'll take in some ALA. Prior to it, obviously this is like a glucose disposal agent, just to help with my glucose uptake. And then that's pretty much it for this meal. And then this is about an hour after my last meal, and then 2 hours or so after this, I'll have my pre-workout meal as well. And one thing I want to touch on, I forgot to mention in my post-workout meals, I also take potassium citrate. I've been doing 600, but bumped it up to 800 milligrams as well this time. Obviously, potassium's huge. I think pretty much most of the population is deficient in potassium. I mean, we talk about sodium all the time, which is great, and but it's really easy to get in, but most people miss out on potassium because most people aren't eating 6-7 servings of veggies a day or fruits, which is where you're going to get most of your potassium from. So if you're increasing your sodium, which athletes do, you got to increase your potassium on top of that. And your ratio of potassium should be higher than your sodium. When I look at people, I think when I do assessments, most of the time I see people maybe get 1 gram of potassium a day, if that. But then their sodium is like at 4,000 or 4 grams a day. And that needs to be flip-flopped. I mean, you need to have a lot more potassium than you use sodium to have that balance in your body with your electrolytes. And then a couple other supplements I'm taking right now that I want to touch on. Calcium D-glucarate. Eugene turned me on to this. The big proponent, to simplify it, is to basically help stay leaner in the trouble areas for most people: glutes, hips, lower abdominals. For me, it's my glutes and hamstrings. I take right now about 1,000 milligrams twice a day. So basically what this does, it inhibits, and I hope I don't butcher the name because I'm horrible with pronunciation, beta glucuride or gluconide. I think that's how you pronounce it. Obviously, you can look it up if that's not how you pronounce it, but either or. It inhibits that. And the reason being, okay, so the trouble areas with fat storage in those areas are typically estrogen dominance. So what ends up happening is you're not excreting or getting rid of your excess estrogen, and it's being redistributed into your bloodstream. So the toxins are being redistributed into your bloodstream, and then obviously you're storing more fat cells in those areas. So this basically keeps the estrogen from being reabsorbed and helps excrete it. It also is a liver detox, and then I believe it lowers your LDL as well. So great thing to take. I have a lot of my females taking this. And then allostatic stamina by Poliquin. So allostatic, the word or the name for the supplement's coming from, if you heard of allostatic load, which is basically the wear and tear on the body due to chronic stress. It has a great blend in here to kind of cover those areas of stress. Is it ashwagandha, obviously, diola. Again, I'm terrible at pronouncing stuff. Obviously, those two main contributors are for stress. Then you have, and this is a new one, another one Eugene turned me on to when we were out in Australia, and we did me and Nicole did a 9-hour seminar with him. We touched on a Tomcat Ali extract. So it's great, especially for people coming out of a prep or caloric deficit or whatever, because it has been shown to increase natural testosterone levels, but also has anti-estrogen effects. So it's great for males and females. And then also you have cordyceps extract, which is shown to increase your VO2 max. So allostatic stamina obviously is to reduce your allostatic load for obviously better overall internal environment, performance, body fat, everything like that. So it's a great addition. So yeah, these are pretty much, this is my meal for right now is 140 grams of carbs. My next meal will be my pre-workout meal. It'll have about 60 grams of carbs. And then I'll have my shake, which I'll go over as well. And I may touch on a few other supplements. But right now I got to eat this because I'm starving.